Captain Peter Kutze, South Korea, and this is my briefing room. Welcome to part 4 of FMC failure. In this segment, we're going to talk about or brief on the aircraft handling in the event of going around or a missed approach, and also have a look at the actual missed approach for the localizer approach to runway 08 left at Muscat. Let's get right into the briefing. Here's the chart that we have been using, and may I make a suggestion that while you are giving the briefing, the pilot flying, I recommend give the briefing as she or he will be doing the flying. I think that person should give the briefing. Follow your company SOPs. This will be a localizer only approach to runway 08 left in Muscat. I'm using a chart 6th of November of 2020, 11-1. Make sure, of course, the pilot monitoring, or the other pilot, I should say, has the same chart. Localizer frequency 108.9, make sure they're set on both number 1 and number 2. And 084 approach course, make sure they're both set on the MCP course windows. Final approach fix 2200, here it is here. So you could actually talk VOR at 6,000, 3,400 feet, 2200, and MDA 580, adding the 50 feet as per your company SOPs. Call me approaching minimums, at which time I will call continue or go around. In the event of a go around, I will call go around, set go around thrust as I touch toga and follow through with the thrust levers to make sure that go around thrust has been set as I am pitching up towards 15 degrees of pitch, ensuring that my FMA indicates go around in toga. Then I will call flaps 15. And when I hear positive rate from you as a pilot monitoring on your barometric altimeter, I will confirm positive rate on my barometric altimeter and call gear up. Now, and then follow the missed approach procedure, which is climb on a runway heading to 510, then left turn, maximum 210 knots to follow the 040 radial of the Muscat VOR climbing to 2,800 feet, then a left turn, maximum 220 knots to the VOR at 6,000 and hold, and the holding will be as published, inbound 264 right-hand turns. Something like that makes sense. Brief the way you're going to fly it. Then you should be discussing special handling procedures, how you're actually going to fly the approach and the missed approach. Now, we talked about how to fly it in part 3. Now, remember, I don't know if I did say it or not, that when you are at the 12 DME fix on the VOR radial, pilot flying will direct the pilot monitoring to change, that is, tune the localizer frequency of 108.9 on both selectors, and then ensure that 084 is set in the course windows at that time in the turn, and then select from the EFIS panel the expanded or center mode for both pilots. Pilot monitoring will do that on the direction of the pilot flying. And then, of course, the heading bug should be set to the approach course of 084. That's important. Now, I don't think maybe I mentioned that before, but that is the proper procedure. Now, as far as the go-around is concerned, when you are briefing the go-around, you want to make sure that the pilot monitoring sets the VOR, or selects the VOR of 114.5, make sure your pilot monitoring tunes 114.5 after you've initiated the go-around, and not close to the ground, let's say somewhere safely in the air and climbing, making sure that the pilot flying is handling the airplane properly. Go ahead, because 510 feet is going to come very fast. So the pilot monitoring should really select that for you. Now, it's best that, because 510 feet is going to be coming rapidly, ask the pilot monitoring to select a heading of 040 degrees. This is a suggestion. A heading of 040 degrees, just to start the heading bug correctly in heading cell, then tune 114.5 on the VORs, and then make the EFIS panel selections to expanded or center VOR modes. I think that's important. And then, of course, you can further adjust the heading for the pilot flying to an intercept heading to the 040 radial. So pilot monitoring, tune VORs on number 1 and number 2, pilot monitoring, make sure you change the course windows on the mode control panel to 040 degrees, and then make sure you change the EFIS panel selectors to expanded or center VOR modes, so that the pilot flying has the correct picture. It's important that the pilot flying stay with flying the airplane. Very important. All right, and then once the pilot flying is happy with what she or he sees, engage an autopilot above 400 feet, and make sure you arm Vorlock, and make sure that you engage and you actually lock on to the 040 radial, because you're going to climb to 2,800 feet before making a turn to the left, a left turn back to the VOR. So it's a busy time, and both pilots have to monitor each other, make sure they're doing the correct thing. But the pilot flying, his or her focus is fly the airplane. Even though the autopilot's engaged, and if you don't feel comfortable making your own MCP inputs, please ask the pilot monitoring to do so, because you probably have never done this before in your lives, and maybe the only time you've done it is once, if your instructor showed it to you in the simulator, and maybe you've never done it. You should have. But in any case, your briefing today is, we're assuming that I'm your instructor and we're going to do it. So it's important. And a lot of things are done in threes in aviation. So 3 things were the VORs tuned to 114.5, the course window set both to 040 degrees, and of course the EFIS panels adjusted to the VOR mode. And if the pilot flying requests center mode, select it for her or him, or the expanded mode. And then both of you make sure you monitor the airplane. Then, of course, Vorlock and use the autopilot to offload the workload and continue out to 2,800 feet, at which time the pilot flying will say heading cell, or select it herself or himself, and start the bug around to the heading that you think will bring you directly to the VOR by looking at your VOR needles. Remember, they're now tuned. And how can you confirm the correct VOR or identify? It's in, or I should say on your on your nav displays, I'm sorry, in the bottom left and right-hand corners. You've got your identification on your nav displays in that picture, the way I showed you in part 3. So you know you've got it tuned. You can see the distance you are. You're on the radial at 2,800 feet. You're not in a VNAV mode, remember, so you're going to have to make the turn at 2,800 feet, and you do that by heading cell. A little tip is to press heading cell, and then start the heading to the left. Actually, start the heading to the left, push heading cell, and then continue the heading to the left. It's a little 3-step procedure that gets the airplane turning right away. And that's a technique. In any case, you're going to probably go to a heading of close to 210 degrees, or maybe even less. Whatever happens, that you are proceeding direct to the VOR on the VOR needles, the pointers, and then ask the pilot monitoring so that you both get it correctly, set the course you're going to use to go inbound to the VOR. Let's say it was 205, just for all intents purposes. So pilot planning say set 205 in both course windows, and then Vorlock, so that when you approach the VOR on that track, and just as you come up to station passage, heading cell, and set your heading the way I said it to you. Actually, you can start your heading to the right because you're in Vorlock, then push heading cell, then adjust your heading to what you think will give you a downwind track of parallel to 264. So that would be 1084. Adjust your heading to what you think will give you a track of 084. And remember that little formula I showed you in part 3 with respect to 1/3 of your actual wind speed at 90 degrees is your drift. So remembering that, you'll be all set, and now you're established in the hold. And here again, as you turn inbound, remember it's a 1-minute hold below 14,000, and you're going to turn right. And when you're 45 degrees off, maybe fly a 45-degree off intercept as you see the pointer opening, and then Vorlock. And then you'll intercept the 084, that is 264 inbound, and continue your hold and discuss what you're going to do once you've done it. So that is basically what I wanted to cover in this briefing, was the fact that your missed approach and go around is different, of course, without FMCs. Because with FMCs, you normally get a nil nav capture when you're through 50 feet and a VNAV capture above at 400 feet or above. But you don't have that in this particular case. So I hope you enjoyed the briefing. Look for part 5 coming up next, during which time we'll actually talk about a few tips on how to handle your navigation portion if you lost both FMCs and you were ETOPS, or let's say over an ocean in ETOPS, and not within any range of any navigation aids. Okay, see you in part 5. Thank you for watching.